but some historians argue his hands-off approach contributed to the coming economic crash. Herbert Hoover. He was a highly respected humanitarian and administrator who had the misfortune of being president when the Great Depression began. He believed in limited government intervention and relied on voluntary cooperation from businesses, which proved to be insufficient for the scale of the crisis. As the economy collapsed and unemployment soared, he became the face of the nation's suffering, leading to a landslide defeat in his re-election bid. Franklin D. Roosevelt. He served longer than any other president, leading the nation through both the Great Depression and World War II. His New Deal programs fundamentally redefined the relationship between the American people and the federal government, creating a social safety net that still exists today. He used his fireside chats to communicate directly with the public, providing a sense of hope and leadership during the most trying years of the 20th century. Harry S. Truman. He took office in the final months of World War II and made the momentous decision to use atomic weapons against Japan. His presidency saw the beginning of the Cold War, the implementation of the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe, and the integration of the U.S. Armed Forces. He was a plain-spoken leader who faced low approval ratings at the time, but is now remembered for his decisive foreign policy and commitment to containing communism. Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was a five-star general who oversaw a period of relative peace and economic prosperity during the 1950s. He managed the tensions of the Cold War with a strategy of massive retaliation and signed the legislation that created the interstate highway system, which transformed the American landscape. While he was cautious on civil rights, he did send federal troops to enforce the integration of Little Rock Central High School. John F. Kennedy. He was a young and charismatic leader who inspired the nation with his call to service and his goal of landing a man on the moon. His presidency was marked by high-stakes Cold War confrontations, most notably the Cuban Missile Crisis, which brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. His assassination in 1963 shocked the world and left many of his legislative goals, including major civil rights reform, for his successor to complete. Lyndon B. Johnson. He used his immense political skill to pass the most significant civil rights legislation since Reconstruction, along with a massive slate of Great Society programs aimed at ending poverty. However, his domestic legacy was increasingly overshadowed by his escalation of the Vietnam War, which led to widespread social unrest and division. The strain of the war and the domestic turmoil eventually led him to decide not to run for re-election. Richard Nixon. He achieved significant foreign policy breakthroughs, including the opening of diplomatic relations with China and the easing of tensions with the Soviet Union. Domestically, he established the Environmental Protection Agency, but his presidency ended in disgrace due to the Watergate scandal. He became the first and only president to resign from office, a move he made to avoid almost certain impeachment and removal. Gerald Ford. He took office under the most difficult circumstances possible, tasked with healing a nation that had lost faith in its government. His decision to grant a full pardon to Richard Nixon was highly controversial at the time and likely cost him the next election, but many now view it as a necessary step for national stability. His short term was a period of transition as the country attempted to move past the trauma of Watergate and the Vietnam War. Jimmy Carter. He was a former peanut farmer and governor who brought a strong sense of morality and human rights to American foreign policy. He brokered the historic Camp David Accords between Israel and Egypt, but his presidency was ultimately hampered by a struggling economy and the protracted Iran hostage crisis. Despite the challenges of his time in office, he has spent his long post-presidency dedicated to global humanitarian work. Ronald Reagan. He was a gifted communicator who led a conservative revolution, advocating for tax cuts, deregulation, and a significant buildup of the military. His firm stance against the Soviet Union and his optimistic rhetoric helped restore national confidence after the difficulties of the 1970s. While his economic policies remain a subject of debate, his role in the eventual collapse of the Cold War is widely recognized as a major turning point in history. George H.W. Bush. He was a skilled diplomat who managed the peaceful end of the Cold War and the reunification of Germany. He led a broad international coalition to victory in the Persian Gulf War, which saw the liberation of Kuwait from Iraqi occupation. Despite his foreign policy successes, a sluggish economy, and a broken promise regarding taxes led to his defeat after a single term. Bill Clinton. He presided over the longest period of peacetime economic expansion in American history, characterized by balanced budgets and a technological boom. His presidency was marked by a shift toward more centrist New Democrat policies, such as welfare reform and trade agreements like NAFTA. While his time in office was successful on many fronts, it was also marred by personal scandal and his impeachment by the House of Representatives. George W. Bush. His presidency was fundamentally reshaped by the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, which led to the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. He created the Department of Homeland Security and implemented major education and healthcare reforms, such as the No Child Left Behind Act. His second term was defined by the difficulties of the Iraq War and the onset of the 2008 global financial crisis. Barack Obama. He made history as the first African-American president and entered office during the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. He oversaw the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which significantly expanded healthcare coverage and authorized the mission that killed Osama bin Laden. His presidency was characterized by a focus on climate change, international diplomacy, and a slow but steady economic recovery. Donald Trump. He was a businessman and media personality who ran a populist campaign, focusing on trade protectionism, immigration restriction, and the appointment of conservative judges. His presidency saw significant tax cuts and a transformation of the federal judiciary, as well as a more confrontational approach to international alliances. His term concluded amidst a global pandemic and a highly contested election that culminated in the events of January 6. Joe Biden. He entered office with a focus on managing the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and revitalizing the nation's infrastructure through massive federal investment. His administration has prioritized climate change initiatives and strengthening international alliances in response to global conflicts. His presidency represents a return to traditional governing styles while addressing modern economic and social challenges. We have now traveled from the very first days of the Republic to the complex, global stage of the 21st century. From Washington to Trump, these 47 leaders have each left a unique mark on the American story, shaping the laws we live by, the borders we defend, and the identity of the nation itself. If you missed the early history, make sure to go back and watch Part 1, where we cover the first 25 presidents who built the foundation of the United States. Which president's story surprised you the most? Did any of these modern leaders change how you view recent history? Drop a comment below, and let's get a discussion going. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we release our next historical breakdown. Thanks for watching the full journey through every USA president.